What happens when your clients can't get U-level advice without booking your calendar? Not from generic AI, but from a clone trained on your thinking, your work, and your voice.
These calls are starting to sound very monotone. When they meet after the agreement, average 37 days. Why isn't there a AI native way for people to exchange information? Why do you even need these engineering leaders or whatever in these calls? Can they dump their brain? Clone is, you can think of almost like a UI, and the backend is data. The clones are only as good as the data and the infrastructure. It's all about graph, right? Like we are behind the screens, we are building graph. All our customers have their name as the product. You are the product. You are the knowledge. We can't make or build wealth by selling that. All these even knowledge professionals, they converted that into an asset. So our pro plan is $19 per month. We don't take anything.
We're at the start of the creation of a new category. This is the way most, if not all, knowledge professionals will scale themselves. The last decade rewarded people who sold time. The next decade rewards people who ship knowledge as system. The winners won't book more calls. They'll scale themselves. Welcome to GTM Vault, trusted by over 25,000 founders and operators building the future of revenue. This week's guest is Vignesh Ravichandran, founder of MyClone, where he builds voice and text agents for experts who want to scale themselves without burning out. Before MyClone, he led critical database infrastructure at Cloudflare, handled traffic for more than 20% of the internet, co-founded Omnigris, a Postgres-based startup built from open source. So, Vignesh, I want to get right to it. What pulled you from databases into cloning expertise?
So it's pretty much a journey. I was doing, as you mentioned, Cloudflare database. Then I had my own database startup in the Postgres space. After that, I left that. I started like a two-sided marketplace, connecting early stage founders, like very similar ICP, with engineering champions, like a VP of engineers and CTOs, like a classic two-sided marketplace or an expert network. But then we did that after 6 months. Two things we noticed. A lot of these calls are starting to sound very monotonous, where the founder asks about the champion, tell me what you do, where do you work, etc., etc. And then they get to the meat of it, like, so tell me about your challenges and things. The second challenge that we noticed is that, there were a lot of reschedules. Like a founder and an engineering leader agrees to meet. And then, when they meet after the agreement, average 37 days. In the meantime, they do a couple of reschedules. One of them don't show up, something happens, life happens. That's when these two things led me like, why isn't there a AI native way for people to exchange information? Can they dump their brain? And then can anybody come and pick their brain or have a coffee chat or have even, interesting deep conversation without them physically present? So that's really what led me down this rabbit hole of what we are building with.
And at what point did MyClone go from experiment to inevitability?
I mean, we did this around August, end of August, where we started doing deeply customer research. Then we started figuring out, okay, then who needs it so badly? It's not the VP of engineers and CTOs because, well, they have a day job. So what's the incentive for them to go and create these clones and train them? All those research went in around August and September. We just started talking to many people and see the love, the pull from them. That's what we were like, wow, this feels so different. Compared to all the products that we have built, we are like, no, we never had these kind of customer conversations. Like from coaches, executive coaches, consultants, and marketing consultant, fashion consultant. Like now we no longer restricted by any verticals. Amongst all this, like close to 85 to 100 conversations we had with our ICP, and we felt the pull, and then we decided, let's just go on it.
What similarities do you see between infrastructure and building AI clones?
AI clones the word clone is almost like a metaphor, right? Like it doesn't really, end of the day, it's all about infrastructure, all about data. The clones are only as good as the data and the infrastructure. So what that means is like having a very clean data set, first of all, imported, having a good understanding of what the data is. Like it's all about graph, right? Like we are behind the screens, we are building graph. Let's say Rick. Okay, Rick knows about sales, go to market. Like how do we interconnect all of them and then build an hierarchy on top of that data or the graph? So I would say, it's very much actually an infrastructure play, but morphed in the form of AI and clones.
Why did you select knowledge professionals as your ICP?
Well, they have the huge body of work. It's as simple as that. Like all of our professionals, right? Like knowledge professionals, when these are like consultants, coaches, advisors. right? Like for them, their knowledge is what, really makes them stand out. That's why people reach out to them. Even software engineers or anybody, right? For the matter of fact. But these professionals have a good body of work in the form of, let's say, podcast, courses, substacks, or newsletters. I'm just thinking, or white paper, quiz, assessment, like the frameworks, methodologies. They have developed these over the last 20 years. And so that makes it really easy for them, to get started. They can see the value immediately. Compare that to a service-based professional like a plumber or an electrician. I'm pretty sure we will get to them also, or somebody will get to them too, because everybody needs to scale. For them, it's a much bigger challenge. Like first, they have to create these body of work to ingest or provide this data set.
You wiped an early code base and rebuilt it from scratch. What went wrong there? What changed? And what finally clicked?
So, I mean, not like we rebuilt this. This is the previous code base. So for RAP, I mean, the idea that I just mentioned about the two-sided marketplace, like an expert network connecting early stage founders and the engineering leaders, that's the code base that I just threw. I was like, you know what, we don't want to be maintaining two products or two projects. Even that was generating revenue, I felt, it's just going to dilute our focus. We wanted to go all in on MyClone. So that's one day I said, you know what, just drop the code base and then let's rebuild it from scratch.
I want to talk a little bit about turning expertise into a product. Why is 15 plus years the breakpoint for cloning?
It's just that our ICP, like what we are just observing, right? Like, hey, who's seeing more value? Who is more active? Okay, what's something common amongst them? Oh, okay, look, all of these people have been in the industry for 15 plus years, whether you are a fashion consultant, whether you are a brand marketing consultant, or you are an executive coach. We just asked them, so how long have you been doing this? They're like, 22 years, 18 years. Okay. 15 seems like a good number for us to, map or build these attributes of our ICP.
Can you dig a little deeper into, I'd like to better understand this concept of productizing expertise. What does it mean?
So for knowledge professionals, as I said, right, like for them, their knowledge is the product. And a lot of them, especially the SMBs, their name is the product. Like it's a Rig GTM, nothing else, right? Like or Q Malandrino's brand marketing, or Amy Shah, Amy CPA. Like all our customers have their name as the product. I mean, they even have 5% working for them, right? Like a CPA, for example, a small CPA firm that we onboarded. But her organization name is Amy CPA. So you are the product, you are the knowledge. So where is the bottleneck in your business then? How do we just scale you? You have to, one, go and hire more people, or train somebody to do that. That's when we saw that around 2023, 2024, we have now this new capability in the form of technology where you can basically, replicate yourself in the form of clones, AI personas. The idea is that to extend you, right? Like this is not to replace anything. It's just that how do we get more leverage? As we all know that, right? Like we can't make or build wealth by selling time. Nobody, all these even knowledge professionals, they converted that into an asset in the form of books, in the form of podcasts, like anything, or a group coaching. So now what is that, hey, with your existing body of work, right? Like why don't you build your own assistant, like an AI assistant that can be, maybe, educating your customers, or auditors like a CPA, certified public accountant. They have to educate their market. All of them have to do some kind of education to their audience. Education is the first thing that they are offloading, right? They have their knowledge, dumped it to us, and they build their clone. Education is taken care. Second one, obviously, is to turn this education into a qualified business for them. Simple. Where this education leads to.
I've been experimenting it with my own business, and it fits very well into a nurturing workflow for sure. Pull the prospect down the funnel, right? While you're not there, every positive engagement is helping increase the likelihood that that prospect converts into a customer. What I'm curious about is when evaluating the content that the knowledge professional uploads to train their AI, what piece of content works the best? Is it a podcast? Is it a talk, a doc, or does format matter?
Good question. To an extent, there is no such preference or anything. End of the day, just so as the computer engineer, right? This is all ones and zeros. That's it. Whether you upload a PDF or a video, audio, they all get transcribed. What does help is having like a single person conversation, right? If it's in a podcast, let's say there are 5 people now. Now we need to understand what Rick said in that conversation with that context, and then add that as part of his knowledge base. So that just diarization, the concept that just makes it a little bit challenge with the multi people podcasts and videos or anything. Obviously, more defined is better. Like coaches, for example, they have like an assessment. Hey, here is my 14, question assessment that I do with all the initial prospects. And can you now turn that into a AI persona? That's very well defined if you think about it. 14 questions, there are the answers like a rubric that has to be fit in there. There is not so much wiggle room. So much better use case for that. Role plays. People are like, you know what? Hey, let me do a role play. I have been helping with people finding jobs. That's one of the things that I do. Or having like, tough conversations with their bosses and peers. Okay, I'm doing that now. It's kind of similar setup. They have methodology that we are now able to replicate that much better.
Another thing that I've been, it's been a few weeks that I've been using MyClone. And one of the things I'm debating is at what point do I offer a premium tier? And how much of it do I keep as a freemium tier? Can you walk me through your perspective on what becomes premium, what lives inside the clone, and what stays free?
So in our like the free plan, right? Still the pay, it's a payment processor. Obviously, we use Stripe, so that's how we get payments through the AI personas. So for context, what Rick is asking is like, hey, can I monetize my knowledge, right? Like, why am I putting all this like form of courses and podcasts? So at some point in time, we have to turn that into revenue, which is very well what we would like our users to do. So nothing wrong. So anything other than our free plan, right? Users get to keep 100% of the revenue their clones generate. We don't take anything. It's the user's knowledge. It's users' visitors. It's users' revenue. As simple as that. Rather, we charge by like asking a monthly subscription. So our pro plan is $19 per month. 19. That's it. So you have a $19 agent running for you. You charge maybe $20. That $40 is the users. They get to keep the entire $40. We don't take anything. Okay. Just to double down, a lot of our professionals also don't even charge them because they are adding it as part of their retainer service, or they are providing it as part of their premium service. They can also put authentication wall in front of it, right? Like there are two walls you can put. One is the authentication wall, other one is the pay wall. Let's say you have like a publicly available, like a clone or persona that anybody can come and talk to it or pick your brain or, do a role play. Okay, sure. You can put like some paywalls to make sure that, you are offsetting your knowledge cost and the infrastructure cost. Then people are like, you know what? I don't need to charge them because I have already charged my clients. This is like a premium service or add-on service that I'm providing. Sure. In those cases, they're putting an authentication wall. That's about it. So just want to, clarify that authentication payment is directly through clones is not the only way to monetize their knowledge.
So I want to now get a little more technical, Vignesh. When I talk to a clone, what's happening under the hood?
So as soon as anybody, we call them as a visitor, right? Like a visitor is engaging with the clone. What we do is just to pull up the persona, the clone that they are talking to with the visitor with all their existing knowledge base. Say I'm for example chatting with Rick's persona. By the way, I mean, these words personas and clones are interchangeable, right? Like, so in MyClone, we have like so many personas a user can create. So we start up that persona with the objective, specific objective. Let's say I'm talking to Rick's role play persona that knows that, hey, Rick is 30 years of, doing go to market. I've done this, and here is all Rick's knowledge for this persona. And here is just meant for role plays. Like an early stage founder who is, let's say, trying to talk to the prospects. How should be this 20 minutes conversation should go? All this knowledge gets all added as part of the system prompts to the models. So we use WebRTC, picking the screens. That's the one that's providing, these connection links between the visitor and the user. With this system prompts that I mentioned. And after that, we obviously use a RAG, hierarchical graph RAG, is where it's pulling the knowledge from. Let's say the founder says that, you know what, I'm building for security. So now it needs to go back to Rick's knowledge base and find everything related, security related stuff, not database related ones.
Why do most RAG systems fail in production?
Okay, why do they fail? It's going back to the very first question we discussed, right? Like clones and infrastructure. It's very clones and database infrastructure. It's all about data at the end of the day. Garbage in is equal to garbage out. So a lot of the RAG systems that I've seen is not have like a clean data source at the first place to begin with. Duct taped, nothing works. It's kind of like, okay, demo works, but not like a production grade system. lot of these parsers in general, like parsing is very fragile idea, right? Like the idea of parsing in computer systems where you have some data and then you parse that. It's just like a bunch of rules is how the data is parsed from one format to another format, and that format, that parser is always tended to fail. So there are some inherent challenges in the computer science itself, I mean engineering itself, how these parsers are built. But obviously you can build very reliable system, right? Like you can get to 99.999%, let's say, you're nailing, like write a lot of good testing, end-to-end testing, unit testing, so to make it even better and robust.
I'm sure you've made some mistakes in your own pipeline. Could you
Yeah.
talk about how some of those and how did you fix them?
So all the time, if at all we get it right, that's when I will be surprised, right? Like, how is it working properly? One we recently talked about is the latency. Is one of the things that we always obsessed about, is that reducing the latency, right? Like, who don't want their other person to respond as soon as possible, right? Like whether it's an agent or a human, we all want immediate response. So on that note, like we were using a different embedding models, like OpenAI ones, bigger models, bigger dimensions. They were taking a lot longer than the other models that we tested. So we felt like we can shave almost like 25% in the latency by just changing the embedding model without losing the accuracy, like without losing the quality. That's a very big clause. It's not like just changing, just not reducing the latency, but keeping the same quality.
Speaking about accuracy and latency, how do you balance these and consistency and realism?
It's a trade-off, right? Like, you can give answer faster, but what if it's just like crap answer compared to, like, I'm going to give you the best answer, but come back tomorrow. And both of them is not a good answer, not a good position. It's delicate, but we kind of starting to understand the nuances. Now, what's a good enough answer without losing the user or the visitor? Definitely, latency is one of the biggest factor. I mean, even at the in a terms, you might even compromise a little bit on the quality, but latency has to be really, really.
Another thing I've been thinking about is like what matters most? Is it sounding human, being correct, or speed, being fast?
Wow, amazing question. I have to just put a Venn diagram, like all three, and then put the center. That's the right answer. There is no such thing as, you can just speak super fast, but if it doesn't sound human, well, that's not really going to cut it. At least the promise of the AI clones, that becomes just a chatbot. Also, you can't just take forever, right? Like saying that, "Yeah, I'm going to really sound like human, but give me 5 minutes." That's just too long. So
We're at the start, I want to say, of the creation of a new category. It's obvious that this is the way most, if not all, knowledge professionals will scale themselves out in the coming years. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your GTM strategy for this new category.
amazing. Love it. I've been doing a lot of GTM these days. So my team members mentioned me, Vignesh, you stop writing code. That's the message that I got from them. Yes, I did spend quite a bit of time writing code. So, but going back, okay, what's the GTM strategy? But first of all, thanks that you are, folks like yourself seeing where this is going, right? I mean, that's fine, right? But the point is that you need to see where this is leading to, right? That's much bigger challenge, right? Like, hey, imagine that, hey, I have this knowledge. How else I can scale this? I have to train a human like an assistant intern, or I have to train a machine that can speak in different languages, that can be available 24/7. There is like all the time, there is no rest for it. All trade-offs combined. My bet is that, what, you much better train a, computer or system than human. I mean, nothing wrong, right? You still have a place for them. We will have a place. That's not what I'm advocating. But a lot of these like coffee calls, qualification calls, knowledge education, I'm very bullish that it will be transferred. Okay, go to market systems, very near and dear.
It's really without a doubt that a knowledge professional is capped by the number of hours they have, right? Within a given day, the amount of hours they can sell. So this really enables the individual to scale themselves out.
Absolutely. We are also seeing some service professionals is the next in line who is coming up, right? Like even as I said, some examples like a realtor or a CPA. I mean, realtor is a very good example, right? Because they still need to do service, like go and show the house and whatnot, but they still also need to do some amount of education to their audience. So we are seeing the next set, like how we can expand our TAM. Like we just picked the knowledge professionals because it's so perfect for them. Okay, once we done that, learn that, who's next in the line? Okay, service professionals. And these are like pretty big industry, like, knowledge professionals, so many. Attorneys, we haven't even talked about or touched upon. But okay, going back still to your GTM question, right? Like, so we are going up in the PLG motion. Start really, like a 1 to 5%. Right? Users can come in like yourself who sign up for free. We give a generous free tier so they can actually play around and really get an idea that, they get to see the product in action. And once they are like, what, hey, this is good. Okay, that's the only time they, go to upgrade to a professional plan. Obviously, they can try the business and, finally enterprise. So the motion that I clearly see is that it's going to be a lot of partner led, channels led. It's not going to be just us trying to sell to every single one of them. For example, a lot of our auditors whom we work with, they don't honestly don't want to be setting these up, right? Like, I don't want to be touching computer or whatnot. You just get the job done for me. So that means typically somebody intermediate who is helping do the job. I mean, we also can't be like, go on every one of the CPAs and set these up. And then we just become like, cognizant or an accent.
At that point, like, what problem is that solving?
Yeah, it's VA cost, right? That's the one that we are replacing today. When we tell them that, if you have like a virtual assistant of some sort, what do they do? They maintain your calendar, they help you find, have these qualification calls, and then they bring you to the table. That's a cost that's just saved. So all two things we can do, right? Like, one is the time saved. For an individual, we are saving the time, or if they have a virtual assistant or some kind of an assistant associate, that's just time saved. Obviously, we can also equate to revenue generated. We just talked about that, users are putting their Stripe authentication in front of it and start generating it. The third one is that they have to basically like build a legacy, right? Like, they are leaving their impression, whatnot. These are at least how we noticed that the people are, why they spend some money in any of these products or services. Time saved, revenue generated, or leaving a legacy, or leaving, good impression.
You mentioned that you're going to market with a subscription model and a freemium tier. Do you think this might evolve into perhaps more of a usage-based model down the line
It is
as, the company matures and
absolutely.
gains more adoption?
Yes, it is usage based. I mean, because if our users don't use us, they don't need to pay us, right? We don't need to charge them. We know we can pass on everything that they say. And if our users use a lot more of our agents, then obviously we need to charge them more. So very much into the usage based model. Going back to the GTM, I want to touch upon two things. The motion that we see is very close to, have you heard about Go High Level?
What is that?
It's a CRM, like very much used in the SMB space. Like a lot of agencies, whatnot, they all use this Go High Level, like a CRM. That's one. The other one is Clay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Clay.
Obviously, so that's the same model in a sense. Hey, we have to educate our partners and channels. They are the ones who are going to likely set this clones up. Obviously, any user can come, like yourself, come and set it up. But if you are talking about SMBs, like 10 to 15%, like a CPA firms or a legal firm, then we need someone in between.
Speaking of channels, where is demand actually coming from today?
Mostly it's from LinkedIn and Reddit. Those are the two best performing channels.
Yeah, can you speak to me about how you're creating demand through LinkedIn and Reddit?
Obviously, the big piece is outbound, especially in LinkedIn. Like, we know our ICP, then we hit them up with a personalized demo. Like, we create these 1 minute personalized demo with a Loom video of me role playing with their agent. So if they see it, they're like, okay, I immediately see the value. Now I have to decide whether it's useful to me or not. Okay, at that point you are making a decision. Very good. Scalable, but still, we have automated so much of it, so we can still cranking out a lot of personalized demos. But other than that, the materials, right? Like a lot of founder-led sales. I have been, constantly being out there and trying to educate the market. Basically, it's not about replacing you. It's about giving you more power to you. It's like almost an extension of you. Other message is that listen, your users and prospects and clients are already talking to AI. The question is like, are they, do you want them to be talking to your AI or a generic AI? So those are at least, the messages that we have to spread. Reddit is a lot more of blogs and technical details. Like, for example, all the technical things that we talked about, we go and share them, right? Because Reddit, as it's pretty strict when it comes to how much of, promotions that you can do. So But even then, it's fine. Even if you just give like a goodwill, right? They like let them come and see what we do, what we have to say, and I'm pretty sure, hopefully, that they will all turn it into some kind of karma, and then eventually turn it into users.
Got it. As an transforming from an infra leader to a founder, what leadership lessons transferred directly?
Oh man, I'm still learning, by the way. I don't think I wish I bring a lot more. And it's also a good question to my team. Now that you asked me, I have to go and ask them that, how do you guys see myself actually being a leader? Like what qualities you like and don't like? Let's see. I mean, it's maybe communication. One of the things that I really stressed or like, give more weightage is communication, clear communication. Non-violent communication is super, super important. Other one is like at least I operated this principle called give and take. It's basically a principle that Adam Grant, a professor from University of Pennsylvania, who wrote a book on this topic, he said how givers eventually win. So I read that when I was working full-time job. So I picked that up using the same strategy even when I'm builder. It's like give first. That's why we have like free users, freemium. Give enough, then they will
Yeah,
come. Then they will come down.
absolutely. I love that. I love that approach.
But
Definitely.
but
Give more than you take.
it needs a long term thinking. Some of these are sometimes you don't also. It's a very tough world, especially current world is like everyone is stressed, whatnot. Even if you give, doesn't mean there is no guarantee that you will get back. But even then I still
Right.
operate in that same mindset. We'll see.
Yeah, that's one of the issues of being a CEO, right? How do you balance short-term results with long-term patience and thinking? How did your hiring lens change?
How did my hiring lens change? To an extent, hiring lens didn't change much. I still, even when I was working at Cloudflare, I used to cold outbound to candidates. Like I write personal emails saying that I have gone through your GitHub, I've seen your contributions. Do you want to do the same thing full time? Definitely will pay you, beat the market, whatnot. Do you want to join? That was my strategy of hiring. And even now I'm doing still the same. Obviously, we don't have the brand, something like Cloudflare. So it's like, what's you're a 5% startup? Okay. But still the process remains the same. It's like, hey, find the really top candidates whom you think would be a good fit. And then just reach out to them. I don't like doing any of these, structured interviews at all. At least for now, it's working out well for us. We go and find those really, what do you say, like rough around the edges candidates, and then bring them in, and then try to fit them in.
How does a community influence product design?
I mean, it's a big part, as you can see, right? Like we are not talking about enterprises, so that means we are working directly with the individuals. They are very vocal, right? Like I get a lot of bug reports from WhatsApp, cold DMs, like LinkedIn, whatnot. It's just going to be a huge part. Any of the recent AI companies that I'm seeing now, like from the ground up, or just to say, yes, it is going to be a big part of MyClone.
Are LLMs competition or leverage?
LLMs competition or leverage. Wow, Rick, this is where we are getting the juicy part. I still think it's leverage, right? Like yeah, you can use this somewhat kind of a smart box to your benefit, right? Like as long as you can. So as like anything that we have seen any other cycles, like mobile or internet or any other waves, it's just going to be like additional productivity, make our lives better. It's still going to have its place. It's just not going to be like what, I'm going to replace everything. I really don't think so. After all, it's trained on publicly available knowledge for the most part, right? It's not generating anything new. I really don't believe that that it's just going to like come up with groundbreaking something on its own. I mean, there is a lot of talk around that, like they can generate whatnot. It's still like it's LLMs are just spitting out the next character. That's all. So we are not going anywhere. They are going to be around. It's just we need to figure out how both of us exist, LLMs and humans.
As an early adopter of AI, nowadays it's so intertwined or it's so integrated into my workflow with nearly everything that I do. I I can't imagine how someone who hasn't started to integrate it in their workflow could compete in speed, accuracy. It's just changing so fast. And I want to ask you, what does AI native mean in 2026?
Great question. So, what does AI native means in 2026? We can talk about, it depends for whom, right? Like we can talk about for an enterprise, or we can talk about our ICP. So let me just stick to our ICP because that's much more relevant. For them, it means adopting AI, like what you just described in every part of your workflow. End of the day, it's about building your, obviously, the pipeline, right? Like for any of the knowledge professionals or any individuals, SMBs, whatnot. Second one is that converting them right into pipelines, and then obviously obviously retain them, and then they give you referral back. All this pipeline, how can you use AI? Like, how can you leverage AI? For example, meetings taking, can I use AI? Email summarizing, or document generation, or creating all this PDFs, invoices, like legal contracts. This is all part of what we do day in and day out. If we can use AI everywhere to get more out of us, then we become AI native. The only big thing, that what we are proposing, at least with MyClone, is that build your own clone, your own AI, right? Like, don't just use the big ones. Obviously, use those, but they don't have all the workflows. They don't know what it takes for it. It's very big, broad, these larger LLMs. Now you need something that is much more, attractable, malleable for you. Basically translate that into your business workflows, finding qualified leads or converting them. That's what we are trying to do. Our biggest competition is that generic GPTs. In chat GPT, you can create something like custom GPT. That's just like a bunch of basic prompts that you can put together that does the job. And we are saying that we are 10x better than the custom GPT. So, for example, our users use it to qualify sales leads. They have this meeting conversation. As soon as they finish the meeting, they dump that to MyClone. And MyClone gives them back that, how the conversation went, like a rubric that they have. And our users try to do this using custom GPT, and it fails every single time.
Yeah, I can imagine it'd be too fragmented when working with custom GPTs, whereas you're providing a end-to-end solution.
Correct. Yeah, end-to-end solution. Like, with your data, now it's all backed up. You can always, go back to your data, and then you also have your framework and workflows. Integrate all of that. Now it just becomes a much more robust, workflow that I can use day in and day out.
And where should ethics draw the line here?
Where should ethics draw? I mean, we have, definitely made it very clear that it's only used, at least we proponent using it for the positive way, and we're going to be a police here, right? Like, making sure that in any kind of non-ethical activity, we don't allow in the platform, like trying to use other users. You have like a strict guidelines, data policy that we don't allow any privacy violation and things like that. It's going to be fun. We have to chase as like any other technology, right? Like 99% use it for the good purpose with the good mindset. And then there is always 1%, which they are trying to find shortcuts. And our job as a platform provider is to make sure that we contain that 1%, and we will.
Do clones become products, media, infrastructure, businesses?
Wow. I mean, to an extent, it can be all of them. It can be a media, sure. Why not? Like, I have your clone also. So now I could have even done this conversation with your clone. Then that just becomes media. Product, yeah. If you can put a paywall in front of it, like do the role plays, pick my brain, or I'm going to analyze your sales contract. That's your product. Influencers, why not? Now you are going to be like, let's say I'm going to engage with your clone, asking, Rick, I'm in the market for a cold email campaign. Which products you recommend? You're going to promote, let's say, instantly. Well, that's your influencer marketing or affiliate marketing. So, I just see sky's the limit for where we are.
So many use cases. And what happens to consulting in a clone-powered world?
Yeah, so what we say is that, it's still going to be there, right? Like, you still want the human judgment, human connection. Like, we have like consultants who have 20 plus years of experience. They are adopting AI. The idea for them is so no-brainer. It's like a best of both worlds. I'm still going to be me. You can't represent you can't replace my connections, my experience, hard-lived experience, my judgment. But you can now also get the kind of chat GPT experience. So that's why we say, it's a best of both worlds. I definitely believe that we are just going to, coexist. And what we see as these clones and personas as an extension to scale them.
I'd like to move on to the rapid fire section of the pod. One myth experts must delete.
Your years of experience doesn't correlate, doesn't matter. Who cares?
AI habit to adopt.
Voice-based, voice dictation.
One GTM metric that matters.
Retention.
One expensive founder mistake.
Not paying enough attention to distribution.
The last decade rewarded people who sold time. The next decade rewards people who ship knowledge as systems. The winners won't book more calls, won't hustle harder, won't scale headcount. They'll scale themselves. Vignesh, thanks for showing us how identity becomes infrastructure. If this episode changed how you think about leverage, share it with one person still trading hours for income. This is GTM Vault. Build systems, not stress.
Tech founders and VCs, careers, lessons, GTM